Everyone. We're going to get started here, and I want to introduce this amazing people that I have with me today. They'll be bringing very valuable content in terms of immigration. So welcome to our webinar, Immigration Services Startup Visa, organized by the Brazilian Canadian Chamber of Commerce in partnership with the SMB Business Immigration. I'm Ingrid Polini, the co-chair of the BCCC British Columbia. I know that's a very long name chapter, and the CEO of Safety Docs Global, which is a document management SaaS company. Before we dive into the main content, I want to thank the BCCC annual sponsors, Vale, Proactiva Results, 4B Mining, Brookfield, Lundin Mining, BMA Law, and Mellowhawk Logistics for their continued support and to introduce the BCCC. We are an independent, non-for-profit organization that has promoted connections between Brazil and Canada for over 50 years. Our mission is to enhance bilateral trade and investment relations and promote the exchange of experience between both countries' private and public sectors. To learn more about the BCCC, stay up to date with the upcoming events, please visit our website and follow us on social media. So we're honored to have Miryam Lazarte, CEO and co-founder of LatAm Startups, Raquel Boixá, founder of Canada StartHub, and Sonia Mirbaha, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly, principal partner at SMB Business Immigrations, who will dive into the startup visa details from both business and legal perspectives. So I want to first introduce Raquel, which she's going to be sharing more about her business.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ingrid. It's a pleasure to be here today and share more about the startup visa. I know many entrepreneurs have so many doubts, receive so many information online, but really to focus and decide what to do, it's really important to have the advice from the ones that already experienced that or are experts in the field. So thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the BCCC team. So I'm going to share my screen just to have some information to support what I'm saying. Just give me 1 minute. Can you see my screen, Ingrid?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So first, let's just me introduce myself. You already mentioned that I'm the CEO and founder of Canada StartHub, but I started my business after I applied for the startup visa and came to Canada through the LatAm Startups incubation process. I'm an entrepreneur for more than 25 years. I have a huge experience as an entrepreneur, as a communication strategist, but I also experienced the challenges and all the things that are important when we arrived in Canada. I learned with my successes and my mistakes here, and I realized how important it was to guide entrepreneurs before applying to a business incubator and how they could be better prepared from their home country before they come to really succeed and be better supported. So that's why I founded Canada StartHub, because I realized that international entrepreneurs, they receive a lot of information online, right? We can access everything online, but we feel really overwhelmed and uncertain about applying to a business incubator and making the decision that might change our lives, bring us to another country with our family, bring our business, expand globally. Even if we are successful in our home country, that doesn't mean that we fit in the Canadian market. So it's a lot in our plate, right? So first, we don't know where to start. Then we don't have the proper guidance before applying to a business incubator. After that, you have mentors, advisors, you have so many experts in the field from the incubator. But before that, how can you engage and know the path, right? After that, you also don't know the requirements and you don't know the expectations from the business incubators, what they really want from you, what they are expecting your answers, what they are expecting your application. You might have everything, but you don't know how to put that in a better way. And another thing is that you lose opportunities and deadlines. If you are not well guided, you lose time, you lose money, right? So when I founded Canada StartHub, I thought about these small business founders, these small business that need trustable connections. They need to learn how to apply for those programs and see which ones have a better fit for them, and also prepare them to present their company in a global environment, not only in a local environment. And I also realized how important it is to have like an assessment that you know that you have a fit or not, instead of losing sometimes months doing research and trying to apply, and then you fail because you don't know if you have the right requirements, right? So first things, of course, Miryam is going to share more, and Sonia, about the government requirements, the incubator requirement. But when I do my assessments online before even guiding the companies, I always make sure that they are an innovative business, they have an innovative business, they can create jobs for Canadians because they are coming through a program that the government wants them to be here, settle here, and create a community, right? That they can compete in a global scale. They can start in Canada and build like a headquarter and go global. And also they have a strong team and experience in their field that they are actually applying. And if they are coachable, so they can learn from their mistakes, they can receive advice, they can receive guidance and adapt. Because one thing we can be sure, it's not the same. Even the culture, the business environment, what are the people looking for here? Are the same problems or not? What kind of things we have to offer to them? So sometimes you have to adapt the business. And this is what I look when I do the assessment, to make sure that the investment and the time that the company is going to do to even do the application for the incubator is really well used, and they are going to be successful. Another point that is crucial is that it's not like a business that is a franchising or a commercial representative that is going to bring only a company that is not his intellectual property. So the founders in the company must bring the intellectual property to Canada, because the government wants to bring innovation to the countries. This is the main purpose of the startup visa: bring innovative international entrepreneurs and build a strong environment, innovative environment. So these are very important things before even deciding to apply for the startup visa, right? And then you go through the process that I created, like a methodology where you do the pre-application process with assessments, with tools to better prepare your profile, your LinkedIn, your deck presentation, but also to introduce yourself, presenting really what you need to show about you and about your business in a better way, creating and filling the expectations, but telling your story the best way you can. And then you go through the application, and after that, you can receive support, building trustable connections, receiving mentorship, because it's not only receiving the letter of support or going through the incubation process. After that, you need like 2 or 3 years building your community in Canada and building a strong business. Sometimes we have 20 years of business relationships in our home country, but we don't have the same in a place that we are just arriving. So here I just put it like a timeline just to make sure that I'm clear about the process before applying to a business incubator, right? So you first do an assessment to see if you have a right fit. Then, of course, you plan your application strategy. If you have a business plan, if you already have that presentation, if you already have all the requirements that you need, then you choose the best incubator that fits with your needs and your business needs. If it's in the same region that you need, if it's in an area that your family is going to feel okay and feel safe and feel adapted. If there are places that they can study and that you like, they plan to go to the university, there are universities that they are looking for. Anyway, you have to analyze the business side and also your family side to choose the right fit. After that, you have to prepare your documentation, right? So not only the business documentation, but your profile as an entrepreneur, if you are preparing your LinkedIn to go global, or it's only a LinkedIn with your personal information locally, so no one's understands your like local brands, what you have done, your background, if you don't clarify for a global market. So it's important to really prepare your profile, your business virtual room to showcase what you do. And then, of course, be prepared for the selection process interview and answer the questions in a proper way, reducing the pressure and reducing let's say, when you are not confident to go because you don't know what to expect. So you get better, more confident, and you go to the interview better prepared. And then you go to the application process. During these last few years, I've been guiding the entrepreneurs, and I already gave at least 50 international entrepreneurs already applied for incubators here and were successful. So here, just to finalize, is part of the incubator process. So after doing all that and applying for the incubator that you decide, you have the application itself, then the interview, some follow-up documents, sometimes the incubator asks. Then you go into the program itself. Depending on the incubator, it is 2 months, 3 months, 1 month, 6 months. It depends on the incubator. Miryam's going to tell more about LatAm Startups. Then you have, of course, to deliver milestones and deliver a group of activities and show that you are going through all the milestones that you decided for your business. And when you show that you achieve that, you receive your letter of support. So depending on the incubator, is before, is after, but that's the main process. And after that, you can apply with your documents to the government that Sonia is going to explain better, but you still receive guidance from the incubator for the startup visa program for a while, depending, it's like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, depends on the incubator also. And the government will be following up how your business is developing, if you are achieving your milestones, if you are showing progress. So you cannot just wait the government information and pause your business while you are waiting the startup visa. So it's a process really to bring your business and be successful here with all the guidance since you decide in your home country until you receive your PR and create all the community here to be successful, not only in Canada, but globally, right? And just to finalize, here is my website, CanadaStartHub.ca, where you have an assessment online. It's for free, and you can check if you have already at least the minimum requirements to start planning your applications for the startup visa. I hope I was clear enough to explain a little bit about the process before applying, Ingrid, and I will be here to clarify any questions later. Thank you for the opportunity.
Raquel, thank you so much for telling us a little bit more about your business and the process of preparing for an acceleration program. If you have any questions for the people that are joining us, please leave it on the Q&A and we'll answer it at the end. I now want to introduce Miryam Lazarte. She's the CEO and co-founder of LatAm Startups. They have a special place in my heart. It was the first acceleration program that my company went through in Canada. And until this day, I always make sure to go there and say hi to the LatAm people every time I'm in Toronto. So Miryam, please take over and tell us more about LatAm Startups.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. So I guess that you guys are looking now at the presentation. Yeah, okay, yes. Perfect. That's just one slide. First of all, I'm very proud to see here of 2 entrepreneurs that have been a part of LatAm Startups. Every single cohort has been different and is certainly a journey. Ingrid is one of our biggest rocket stars. She's a super entrepreneur, I have to say. But okay, starting here with the process and all that. I'm here to answer more like questions. I would like to say that the Startup Visa program is not an easy program. People sometimes get the idea that, getting the letter of support will be an easy process. And here you have just in this room, 2 cases that are very different. One that has been the fastest case probably in history of that Startup Visa program, which was Raquel with 3 months. And one of the most delayed cases, which is Ingrid, that is still, waiting for her visa. And we are still, getting there. There are good news and bad news. The good news is that, as part of LatAm Startups, we have never received a rejection for permanent residence, which is good. This year we have received the most permanent residence visas, and we hope that that will continue that trend. The bad news is that there is no timeline. There is no particular process that I can tell you this is going to work or doesn't work. Nobody can tell you that. Nobody can tell you that the letter of support will give you the permanent residence. Nobody can guarantee anything like that. So I just want to be clear about that from the beginning, because one of our core values is to be transparent with people. So I just want to make sure that people understand what is to take, to take this type of program. So being said that, we understand that many people have many questions, and that's why we have done some business live sessions that are totally free. People can join those sessions, different times of the year. We have some coming up in August. Maybe you guys want to be a part of that, but you will have sessions about incorporation, immigration. Our dear Sonia here will do the immigration part. She has done that before. Marketing, sales, business plan, market research, all those sessions are free, and you can access to them by just scanning the QR code. We are doing this because we know that, with the time has become more difficult for people to actually understand how to fit in that program that is very volatile. Every incubator and accelerator has a different process. So it's very difficult to know exactly what people want to see. But at the end of the day, we always advise the companies, less focus in your business. That should be the focus, and that should be the way that you should apply for any type of program. In LatAm Startups, when you go to the website, you will find that the programs that we have includes the Startup Visa path, which is how we get to Startup Visa from phase 1 to phase 3. We are going to short out that into just 2 phases, because we figured out, like at the beginning, that the first month is very important for us, but it can be just that month a part of that particular phase. So Startup Visa Path is a program that goes into a 3 months program that includes market validation and market entry. So being mindful here that there are many companies in different type of sizes. I get to hear many times, oh, I'm more advanced than the others. I'm already with sales. I'm already doing this, doing that. Like, we have companies that are in MVP and others that are already selling $10 million at home. So it depends really of how innovative is the company and how coachable are the founders, because we really want to work with people that are passionate about their business and they really want to enter to North America. So that's how Startup Visa Path works, is that 3 first month program. And then, you guys have an interview with the board of directors. The board of directors are the ones who decide whether or not you have, an opportunity to enter to phase 3. That's very important for us, because they put in the shoes of the government. And the government, these guys, they just, want to see how innovative is your business and how good it's going to be for Canada. So besides that, our mandate with government is to help those businesses to keep growing. So even if the companies graduate, we continue working with them until they need us. Whenever they need us, we are there. So basically, I have my kids all around, in different places, but they are still my kids. I call my kids because they are. We have other programs that are maybe not, if you are maybe not the right profile for a Startup Visa program, then we have the Build Up Scale Up program that is more for companies that are in ideation. This is a testing program, pilot program that we have this year. We have already companies in this program, and we've seen very good results on this one. We have the corporate program that are for people that are not interested to immigrate in Canada. So sometimes, people are just want to have a business here in Canada, but they are not looking for immigration. They look to have a team, or maybe they already resolve immigration somehow, so they need some other help. And then we also have the Hamilton Niagara Bootcamp. That's a free bootcamp for companies that are coming here, and they are looking into, alternatives to see how they can enter into the market. Maybe you are not sure the startup visa is going to be the path. Maybe you are not sure about any other of the programs. So you can join that free in October. That's basically an in-person bootcamp. Then the application process for SUB, basically, after people finish phase 1, phase 2, and get accepted to start a visa program, we give the letter of support right away. We follow up with documents. But again, our mandate is not to give a visa, is to continue working with the companies in their own businesses. So we are always recommending the companies to hire a good lawyer and to make sure that, the lawyer understands the startup visa program and the path that it has to be there. In this process, we're very excited because last year we got extra funding. So right now we have things that we didn't have for the other cohorts, like C fractionals, we have marketing interns, we have industry mentors and industry experts, which is really exciting to see how companies are advancing way faster right now because of that. But we also have connections with other accelerators and incubators like Accelerator Center. We have an excellent relationship with them, and some of our startups are there, including Ingrid. They have an excellent program too. We have, Acceleration Plus. We have some other programs around that people can take. Some of those programs are free after they, finish with us, phase 3. And basically, I will leave the part of working, the work permit PR, with Sonia. But the most important thing for me to say today here is that if you enter to a startup visa program, it's very important that you understand, again, I'm going to repeat myself over and over. This is about your business. It's all about your business. So the letter of support, you should not stop there. You should continue working in your business, because in some point the government will come to you and ask you about your traction. And it's getting more difficult now. They are asking really like how your company is doing. They ask us sometimes for a letter to see if the company actually have done any progress. And we are happy to support those companies that continue progressing by providing extra letters, by providing extra support, because we know this is not easy. Having a company never is easy. So, and you need all the help that you need. So count with us as a partner here in Canada. If we are the right partner, there are so many others in the industry. We are the leading organization for international startups. But other than that, we work very well with other incubators and accelerators, and we are more than happy to see the right people around, here in Canada, and not just because of Canada, but because of global markets. So I leave it there so Sonia can just continue the process of PR and all that.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Miryam. Sonia, if you want to take it over and tell us all about the PR and all the technicalities of the startup visa now.
Absolutely. All exciting stuff, right? I'm always come as the last person, because obviously the whole business idea needs to be validated by somebody like Raquel and been, accepted to a program for a designated organization like LatAm Startups. And then once all of that is set up and letter of support is given, then that's when we come into the picture as immigration professionals. A bit about myself. I'm the principal partner at SMB Business Immigration. We're a boutique immigration firm in Toronto. We deal with all array of immigration applications, including startup visa program. I'm just here to explain what a startup visa program is about, and potentially introduce other entrepreneurial categories as well. If startup visa program is not a best suited program for your type of business. Moving to the next slide. So in terms of agenda, I'll just be very quick because, if I want to talk about immigration, I can go on for days and days. So I'll just try to limit myself to few points. The current statistics, I thought maybe I should start talking about, in continuation of the information that Raquel and especially Miryam gave you about the startup visa program, the number of applications received, the number of approvals. I just thought maybe, just an overall statistics of how the program worked last year as opposed to pre-COVID, and how we're going to move forward. Where do we think we are going forward? To give you overall view, and then move on to the specifics and eligibility criteria of the program. And then we'll leave the Q&A, the best part, for the last. So starting from current statistics, and that's the next slide, during 2022, we saw around 555 applicants, foreign nationals, being welcomed to Canada under the SUV program. This was 16%, a slight increase from the number of applicants that were accepted to Canada back in 2019, pre-COVID. As you may know, majority of you or some of you, COVID has created a lot of backlog and a lot of, strain in the program. Not specifically this program, the rest of the IRCC programs were impacted too, but specifically SUV applications. There has been a huge long halt of assessing these applications, and therefore the backlog started growing, and therefore the processing timelines extended. So, we've seen a rate of approval up to this point, and we're hoping that going forward, we'll see the same rate of approval. To Miryam's point, we're seeing a lot of strict regulations coming out of IRCC, which is not necessarily scary or making anybody anxious, but something to consider definitely when people are applying through under this program. And I'll get to that a little later on. Just for you guys to know, IRCC's total immigration backlog is sitting at 2.1 million people right now. And so that's how hard IRCC officers will have to work on to get through the backlogs. Next slide, please. So we're going to be talking about what a SUV is. I mean, many of you know what it is. So Startup Visa Program is the program, one of the entrepreneurial programs that the government of Canada introduced back in 2017 to bring innovative ideas. Now, I saw in one of the question and answers while my colleagues were talking, somebody asked, what is an innovative idea? Like, how do you consider an idea an innovative? Well, it has to be primarily dealing with technology, bringing a new modern technology or a new modern business model to Canada, which has a room to scale up and grow, and which has a potential to help the economy of Canada to grow. So that's the definition of what innovative is. And now, somebody like Raquel and StartHub will help you identify whether there's a potential for that. And LatAm Startups and Miryam's team will help you trying to navigate, trying to be connected to the organizations, partners, investors, whoever that's associated with helping you grow in Canada and ultimately getting the letter of support in order to apply for this program. Now, registering the Canadian entity in Canada, it is part of, okay, I'll have to correct myself. It is not part of the requirements per se, but it is to the best interest of the company and the co-founders and ultimately the immigration program to register a Canadian entity in Canada. Now, I know somebody like Miryam and LatAm Startups, they have one of their fundamental requirements from the companies to be registered, incorporated in Canada as the first step, which I highly value. But like I said, if you've got that registration, it'll help your immigration application tremendously. Late after that, you will obviously move on to the programs that the incubators, accelerators, venture capitalists, any designated organization that IRCC has identified to go through the program, and ultimately, once everything is satisfied, getting the letter of support. That piece is one of the main pieces that you require for your immigration application. It essentially lays out whether your need in Canada, whether your presence in Canada is essential or urgent, what are the details that goes into your business, and about the investment in the business and all the other details. I do have a sample of letter of support, just the first page for you guys, for whoever that haven't seen it, just to get an idea as the next slide, which I'll show you. But that's essentially it. That's the information that the designated organization is passing on to IRCC directly, and a copy will go with your immigration application to IRCC. The applicants obviously have to plan to live outside of Quebec, because Quebec is a different country. That's just a joke, but they have their own regulations and requirements. So any company that's coming under the SUV program has to be registered and active outside of Quebec in Canada. Obviously, qualifying business, it's got certain definition to it, and it's one of the most important things again under this program. What it means is that we have to qualify the co-founders. There can be up to 5 co-founders for the company, and all the co-founders will have to apply at the same time. The shares of the company and how, the number of shares that each co-founder is holding in the company is very important. It has to be at least 10% of the share company, and altogether, along with the organized designated organization, the business has to have at least 50% or majority shareholder in the company. There has to be an active involvement in the Canadian business. I just can't emphasize enough how important that is. Along with what Miryam mentioned earlier, it is becoming a lot more highlighted these days when the application gets to the assessment part, when the immigration officer is assessing the PR application. They're really getting into nitty-gritty of how the business has been established in the last year or 2 or 3 during the processing time of the application. So you can't just be incorporating a company in Canada and just laying back in your home country, doing business and not touching anything in Canada, hoping that the application gets approved. Nothing like that is the reality these days. You just have to be actively involved. And there's a definition for that, which I just don't have time. I'm very constrained here in terms of time, but I can explain to you if you have more questions later on that, what is an active involvement in the business. English language obviously is one of the important factors as well. The co-founders are expected to know English. This is the official language of Canada. And if you're doing a business in Canada, and if you are claiming to be growing in Canada, you need to speak the language. So IELTS exam has to be taken. CLB 5 is the very minimum that we're looking for in terms of the requirements of the immigration. If you know more and you can get a higher score, voila, great. But that's the minimum that we're looking for. Proof of financial support to support yourself and the size of your family if you're coming with your spouse or dependent children. Very important. Proof of investment also is becoming important. That's something that has not been the case earlier, but it is going to be, I guess, the focus of IRCC officers going forward. It just happened to be, I was at the CBA, Canadian Bar Association conference last week, and that's the annual event that, all the lawyers and professionals attend. And there was a huge talk, major focus on SUV applications and how the program is evolving and how strict immigration officers are becoming and what is the focus of IRCC going forward. So just because the program and the guidelines are not designed clearly, they're very, very much in between the lines, and there are some gray areas, and many businesses and co-founders are falling on that gray areas. And how do we define that? So as part of it, again, proof of financial support is becoming very, very important. We're moving to the next slide. You did great, Khalil. That's the letter of support. That's a sample that I was talking about. If you can just make it a bit more bigger, I guess, so everyone can see it. This is just example. I, took out the information of, this is from one of our clients, took out the information, but this is essentially what I was talking about. The personal information and the business related information will go on this piece of document, 4 or 5 pages. Copy goes to immigration office. Another copy will be submitted with your application to immigration office. Next slide. So in terms of processing times, as I said, we have a huge backlog, and that creates a very long timeline. So something like 3 months processing time for Raquel is pretty much a dream these days. That's nothing close to reality. It's taking 36 months right now. That's what it shows on IRCC's website. And now, again, this is an average timing. Whatever that IRCC posts on their website is average timing. So that means some applications will get the response sooner. Some will take even more than this. I hope not. Work permit is something under the program that's, we're going to get to that in more details, but whoever that's applying for a work permit, their application will be assessed at the Canadian consulate outside of Canada. And that's apart from this 36 months processing. This timeline that I mentioned here is only for the PR application under SGV, and then work permit is going to be a very separate processing timelines. It's going to be a lot faster than this. It's typically between 2 months to 4 or 5 months, depending on which country the applicants are coming from. But the reason that I mentioned is that oftentimes people confuse that, okay, so 36 months is for the whole process of work permit and PR. No, that's only for the PR piece, and work permit is going to be treated differently. Next slide. So what is work permit, and how do we what are the definitions of work permit under this program in general? So because the SUV program, the PR program, is taking so long, Canadian government is allowing the applicants to apply for work permit, faster processing, come to Canada, start working on the business idea, start expanding in Canada, start building the relationships, and live in Canada with family until the PR application gets finalized and assessed. Now, the work permit under SUV program is an LMIA exempt work permit. For whoever that knows LMIA, that stands for Labor Market Impact Assessment. That's the piece that Service Canada approves for certain type of work permits, but the work permits under SUV is LMIA exempt, so you don't need to worry about that. Again, like I said, application will be processed at the visa office outside of Canada, so we'll have to look into see what's the nationality of the person, which country the Canadian consulate is located in, and what is the processing timeline associated with that. And like I said, applicants can stay in Canada until the PR is granted. This is a great way. I mean, going back to the rate of rejections and how strict IRCC is becoming, we're seeing many rejections on the work permit side too, which again is going to be, I guess, a topic of conversation for totally another webinar. I can't just open the can of worms here because there's just a lot of information about that. But we've seen rate of rejections lately, and we don't know whether IRCC officers are just trying to get rid of the load and all the applications that are sitting there and just left, right, and center issuing the rejection letters, or there is a merit to that, or anyways, that's like I said, that's a whole different conversation. But work permits are allowed under SGV program. Open spouse work permit and study permit are allowed for dependents of the co-founders. So open spousal work permit means that a spouse of the co-founder can come to Canada. It's an open work permit. It's not closed, associated with any company. Spouse can work for any Canadian employer, and the dependent family members can get a study permit and study in Canada. Next slide, please. So that's all about Startup Visa program. Again, there's a lot into it, and I wish I had time to go, delve deeper, but I'm sure that I'm gonna occupy another 5 hours. So I'll just leave it up to the questions and answers, and whoever that has extra questions, I'd be happy to take it on after the webinar as well. This slide is mainly to give you an idea of what other programs are existing there for entrepreneurs if startup visa program is not a right fit for you? Like Miryam mentioned, sometimes startup visa, I mean, it's a great program if you want to apply for it, great, but sometimes your type of business might not be qualified under that. So what else is available? The provincial nominee programs are, again, those are active programs designed for entrepreneurs. Just to give you an idea of why we're saying provincial. So immigration in Canada in general is operated in two levels, on federal level and provincial level. There are some programs under a federal level, like Startup Visa Program, which means that whoever that comes under that program can really settle everywhere in Canada. There are some provincial programs that are designed and operated by the provinces specifically, and I've kind of laid out the provinces right there, as you can see. And whoever that's applying for these programs do have to show the genuine intention of residing and settling in that province specifically. So if somebody's applying under the PMP program, that stands for Provincial Nominee Program, coming to, let's say, New Brunswick, then the whole business plan, the whole business idea, the whole settlement idea has to be geared and focused on what's going on in New Brunswick. You can't apply through the program and come to Ontario and live in this province. So again, when it comes to PMP programs, the asset and net worth requirements are becoming very, very highlighted. Something that's not as much highlighted under the SUV program. These are very different programs in nature, and the requirements are very, very different. But anyways, it's designed for entrepreneurs. So whoever that had business, business skills or business background can explore these programs as well. And with that, I conclude my talking. That's the last slide. I just wanted to put my email there in case if you want to reach out to me, because I know that immigration is always a hot topic. And I know that we can almost in all the webinars that I've handled can capture all the information within this, short span of time that I have. So here's the email address. If you want to email me later your questions, I'd be happy to answer. And thanks, Polini. Thanks, BCCC, for organizing this. And an absolute pleasure to speak alongside Raquel and Miryam today.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So I have a couple questions here. Let me open 1 second. So someone asked, can you move to another province after the PR? Also, I have a company in Brazil and I wish to open an office in Canada. What are my options? So I think they're asking if they decide to do the provincial, if after they get the PR, if they can move somewhere else.
That's fine. After getting a PR, PR approved, we're not concerned because we've also got a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which allows every PR and every Canadian citizen to move freely in Canada. So we're not really limiting or restricting anybody in that sense. The reason that I said that, everything, all the activities will have to be focused on that specific province was for the process of the PR application. Different provinces have different requirements. So that's why if you're, picking, let's say, Ontario, then you would have to abide by the regulations that Ontario set for you, right? So up to that point that you get your PR, once you get your PR, you can move your business and do whatever.
That's amazing. Thank you. I have a couple more questions here for us. So with the loan processing times, what happens if one of the co-founders decides to drop the process or gets the PR through another venue? I think that's a question that comes up often.
Yeah, so that's not cool. The thing about SUV is that all the co-founders, when you're in cohort of multiple co-founders, applications are sort of linked. You're sending your application separately, but you're also linked, which means that whatever that happens to one co-founder will affect and impact the other co-founders, which means that if you decide for whatever reason, you have to make sure that you've made up your mind before filing the SUV. If you change your mind down the line, then it's going to impact the other co-founders' application and it might get them into refusal. And that's likely not a good scenario to be in.
Awesome. I have one more here. So this is for all the panelists, of course. what are the main mistakes you have seen founders make when trying to get through the startup visa program, either on the application stage or going through the to the acceleration program, Miryam, in your case?
Ingrid, I couldn't understand the first part of the question.
What are the main mistakes you've seen founders make? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't have 2 hours here, but from the first steps, I think like, I will say this, I understand that many people want to kind of, balance life and business, but sometimes lives can wait a little bit more, and they are expecting to have a visa first and business later. So I think that's the first mistake that I've seen, is that when people are kind of like focusing more in the visa than in the business, you have to realize this is a visa that is meant to be for a business, and meant to be for, somebody that is going to put a tech business here. So that's the first mistake. I think going forward is more about the assumptions. That's why, internally we work in the assumptions. When people are kind of coming to Canada, they have a lot of assumptions and they don't validate those, either from business perspective or life perspective. So sometimes people think, oh, it's Canada, it's going to be faster, easier, many things. No, not to be negative on this part, but it's just sometimes the expectations are higher than it's supposed to be, or sometimes also I have a couple of cases that expectations are lower in certain cases. So no, everything is, is perfect. But that precisely is the life of entrepreneur, because nothing is perfect. So it's not, many of the things that we do is because, we have seen other cases. I'm myself an entrepreneur that have failed many times in many type of businesses in the past. And I have a couple of success back at home. And I understand, when you're coming with your business, you come with a really, really, hope that things are going to work for the best. And that's why we have the program that we have. Being said that, I think the main failures or challenges for the entrepreneurs come from those areas. It's the expectations area, which we want to be very clear and transparent with them because of that. And the other is like preferring, visa over business. I will say, well, that's my summary.
I love that. Thank you.
I'm going to add to Miryam's point. That was a very, she put it in a very excellent wording. I can't just, can't stop emphasizing the fact that it is very important to continue with your business idea. It is very important to expand your idea and settle your idea and, trying to scale up in Canada first before expecting immigration officers to accept your file. So, and we see it, like I said, we see it more and more now. At the beginning of the startup visa program, I guess officers were not into that. Now they're quite well versed and they know that, there might be some organizations that are just issuing the letter of support for the sake of applying for the immigration program. And it might not necessarily be a genuine business idea. And they're now started to catching up on those. So again, very important to focus on business first and then move on to apply for immigration.
I think Raquel wants to add on that point as well.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. I think Miryam shared very important topics about the founders that are coming. But before that, I would say to add for her is also founders that come to Canada without preparing themselves first. For example, building a network from their home country. They can do so much from there, like while they are defining or creating connections through a chamber of commerce or through partners or even from online virtual mentorship like LatAm does, but they can create a lot of connections before they arrive. And I think one of the mistakes founders do, they think that they have to come to Canada first and then build the connections in person. And then they arrive and they spend a lot of time, a lot of resources without having those connections. And then they spend sometimes 1 year not building their business, not receiving revenue because they don't have those connections. So this is one thing. And the other thing is the financial savings and perspectives, because things happen, pandemic, things that you don't expect. So it's important to have not only your family savings to live in Canada, that's one of the requirements from the government, but also think about your business plan and what do you need to survive for 1 or 2 years, because you might not have revenue in the first year. You might not find an investor. You cannot come here and think, I'm going to find an investor in 2 months, right? You have to build a strong foundation for your business, create marketing strategies, connections, participate in events, and all this. At least you have a little bit of resources for that. And the third thing I would say is that create your virtual environment. So I saw and I experienced a lot of entrepreneurs that come to Canada and then don't have even a LinkedIn in English. So how they can present themselves if they don't prepare their virtual living room first, right? So these things are so simple, but they are crucial for you to schedule a meeting, to talk to other people, to share your ideas, to create all this communication strategy first before applying. And some they don't, so they are not known, they don't have connections, even virtually.
Thank you so much. I think I have one last question before we close. It's for the three of you, but we've been talking a lot about the differences of the startup visa on the new differences that the IRCC is doing. And I know that Sonia was talking about they want to see you working on your business and working on your idea. The question here is, does the business has to be profitable? Does it has to be having revenue, or does they have to be developing the idea and developing the networking? What is the IRCC expecting in terms of the businesses for that?
I can tell you one thing. Yeah.
Go ahead,
I think Sonia can probably put further this, but I will tell you from our perspective, from LatAm Startups perspective, right? From what we have seen over the years and as experience, in this area, we have seen that it's better when you have a business that is already running at home, that already has some revenue and you have already some experience. Because again, this is not going to be an easy process. We particularly don't accept companies in ideation and startup visa program, because ideas can be, everyone can have ideas. But business running is another thing. Now, in regards of intellectual property, you can have something to claim later. You don't have to claim immediately, but you have to have the ownership to claim it later. So because I'm clarifying for this point, because sometimes people are like, this is a very expensive process, especially if we are talking about patents and all that. But it's very important that you understand that your technology really is unique, and it's something that you can claim later on. So in base cases, and perhaps this is why we haven't seen a rejection just yet. I'm assuming this in this case is all the businesses that we have are real businesses that are running at home, and they are trying to expand here in Canada. And this is why I can put my hands on fire for every single business that has been in a startup visa program in our community. So other incubators and accelerators, they can actually receive an ideation. And that's why, I think like Sonia can complement this part, not in our case.
Yeah, so, okay, again, I wish I had more time to talk about these stuff with you guys. Okay, so at the beginning, nowhere in IRCC's regulations about the startup visa program, you see any definition of educational requirement, work requirement from the co-founders, or any sort of background requirement. However, what we see recently is that files are getting rejected. Why? Because the co-founder has been doing one thing and now decided to open up a shop in another field. So going back to Miryam's comment, what you've studied at school, what you've done before, and especially in your home country, becomes very important, and that kind of drives the path for a successful immigration application. Everything has to go hand in hand. Again, this did not used to be the case, but it is the case these days. So you need to be sort of linking your education background experience, what you've done, you know, your experience in your home country, sales, marketing, all of that, and now you're translating that into the Canadian market. Whether you want to be whether are you a profitable business at a time of assessing a PR application, I don't think that matters as much as, you know, the number of activities that you've done and how you're proving that you're really trying hard to, you know, put your footprint in Canada. Are you hiring any employee? Are you getting into networking events? Are you signing any NDAs with potential clients? Are you getting into any agreements with all of those stuff are going hand to hand? So I would say profitability is not really a matter of concern as much as how you're establishing yourself in Canada.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, Raquel, Miryam, Sonia, for being with us today. If the audience has any more questions, you can connect with any of our panelists or BCCC directly. We're happy to support. On behalf of the BCCC, I want to thank all our panelists and for all of you for being here for the past hour. This webinar is part of the BCCC Immigration Services series and will be available on our YouTube channel in the next few days, where you can also find the previous sessions on study visa and work permit. Thank you for joining us today, and remember to follow the Brazil-Canadian Chamber of Commerce on social media. Thank you.
Thanks, Ingrid. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.